Welcome back to Saving America's Money. Wow, what a weekend and what a surprise that we have in the silver market. If you are a holder of precious metals right now, you are absolutely winning. I know I haven't been on this channel for long, but I had a very good feeling at the start of last year when things were kind of changing over, administrations changing over, that we would see a influx in the price of silver and gold. It was already starting back in 2024, 2025, actually probably early 2023. We started to see gold rise. I knew silver would be quick to really follow that trend. But what does this mean for you, right? If you aren't someone who holds precious metals, one, you should be, okay? But two, what does it mean for your everyday US dollar and what's happening with the dollar? Because as precious metals get higher, the dollar necessarily doesn't get lower, but it just takes more dollars to buy silver and gold. I could probably say this time last year we saw silver hovering around. It's always been around 36 to $40. Interesting enough, now you're seeing silver today at around actually this morning was well, closing last night. This was as I record this, silver was $108. Okay, when the close of the day yesterday, because just video is going to be posted the day after, the silver closed at well, actually got to an all-time high of $117 and closed at a day around 112. Right, so it crashed to a price that we didn't see. So let me show you what I mean here. So silver crashed to a price. Tom Crown says silver crashes to a price not seen since today, right? Because like I said, on Monday when you guys are seeing this, I record this video on Monday, so you guys always see my videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But Monday morning, silver was trading around 108 and then got to an all-time high of 117 and then close for the intraday at 112. So every day silver is moving up, gold is moving up. And what I think is we need to really keep in mind here is that precious metals for a long time have been suppressed, right? Going all the way back to 1971 when Richard Nixon took us off the gold market. It's really been interesting to see how silver has been suppressed. Well, one of the reasons why it's been suppressed is it's in everything that we use. It's in our electronics, it's in our medical equipment, it's in our, if you have solar, it's in a lot of stuff. So silver has been suppressed because it keeps it down, it keeps the cost down to make these things and then to resell them on the open market. That is good for business. Now silver is starting to move up, and I think what you're starting to really see is the real price of silver and the real price of gold. Now, gold we know is a store of value and has been way manipulated since 1971 when we went off the gold standard. But silver is more of an industrial use type of metal, right? Like I said, it's in everything that we use. And what I want to kind of just have people think about when you are seeing silver rise like this, because now you're seeing the true value, is your dollars in your pockets. Yeah, you're not necessarily losing money, but it's going to make it hard for other people to believe in the US dollar. What do I mean? Well, we know that since, the 70s and 80s, right, the US dollar was the world reserve currency, right? And it still is to today. It's still the world reserve currency. But the faith in the US dollar in other countries is starting to diminish, right? Because let's just say, and this is hypothetical, not sure if things are like this going to happen, but let's just say that we go back to a asset backed currency, right? Or if other countries, like you have the BRIC nations, what if they decide to go to an asset backed currency? What does that mean for the dollar, right? Are we in trouble as a nation and really as an American people um, if the U.S. dollar is supplanted by another country or group of nations, right, who actually want to do something else? Well, that's to remain to be seen, right? But what you need to think about is someone, if you are actually, uh, holding silver, right? One, might be a great time for you to cash out or, sell some of your shares or do whatever you need to do to actually pay off bills. But the other thing, though, is you need to remember that if silver continues to rise, right, your everyday goods, right, could continue to go up. Does this solve for inflation, right? Does this solve for an economic downturn? Possibly, who knows? But all I do know is that silver is on the rise, and it's been a long time coming. I do think that silver has, again, like I said, been manipulated, but ultimately, I think for a lot of us, we really are seeing what the dollar over time has really done in terms of creating this debt system that we live in. And when you have a debt system, remember, it's not that things that we're buying are getting more expensive. It's that the dollars in our pocket are getting a lot weaker.
Start, Tom, with what's been going on in the metals because a lot of people are pointing to this and saying the dollar's collapsing and metals are soaring. And should they feel good about owning stocks in this environment or you hold your nose? And I mean, can you kind of just unpack for us what you think is going on here?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think metals is proving to be a real genuine asset class because I think for many years, maybe people thought only gold bags should own gold. But now, especially the last 3 years, metals have, I think, proven to be a bit of a juggernaut. And it's hard to tell how much of it is geopolitical uncertainty, dollar and currency weakness versus dovish central banks. But maybe if it's all three, that explains why gold's done so well. I don't think that those are bad for equities because if this is anticipating dollar weakness or more dovish moves by central banks, then it's good for asset prices. So I almost think the gold move could be sort of a glimpse into sort of risk appetite growing for stocks.
If you are holding silver and gold, you've had protection over the last few years, right? And that's really what I think precious metals have, and but Bitcoin for that matter, have shown us, right? That you are able to protect your wealth, right? Because if you're holding your money in, let's say, in a savings account, or like, a lot of people used to want to do CDs or even bonds today, right? You aren't keeping up with the cost of inflation, right? And the cost of just everyday, cost of living, right? So what people have used gold and silver, Bitcoin and other, assets, real estate as really hedges against the dollar, right? Because typically when the dollar is printed into oblivion, which we've seen over the years, right, those assets have risen for sure. We know in real estate, right, and as of recently, we've seen that in Bitcoin. So the more money it takes, we print, the more these assets um, are getting inflated, right? Because it's taking more dollars to equal one Bitcoin, to equal silver. I think right now, people are feeling that there's probably a feeling of around the world, really, just not here in America, that metals are another hedge against the US dollar dominance, right? But again, like, what does that do for me and you at home, right? So when this trend accelerates, right, this is going to really force three things. It's going to reinforce another record high debt. It's going to force potentially high interest expense. Okay. And then geopolitical realignment. And I think that's what we're starting to see, specifically for sure, geopolitically, is that when the dollar is challenged, right? Or if the dollar is too overwhelming for other countries, you start to see alignment, like I said earlier, from the BRICS nations, or obviously the tariffs have caused a lot of risk geopolitically. But now people are starting to, and I could be definitely wrong about this, are starting to doubt whether the dollar is that currency we should be reliant on, right? Because you got to remember, the stronger the US dollar is, the harder for other nations it is to do business. There's a reason why I think that for so long, tariffs, I'm not going to change the subject here, tariffs have really caused a rift in the way other nations do business because our dollars are so strong. They're taking our dollars, right, and they're not charging. I mean, we're being charged tariffs here, but tariffs from other countries weren't a big thing because they could take all that money and recirculate it back into their economies. And I just think that um, we've never seen this before, and especially in my lifetime, never seen silver move this fast. I don't think it's done. I think there's going to be more to come, right, with this. But I want to just read something really quick, and then we'll finish it off here. Um, let's go here. So No Limit says on X.com, he says that this is very bad. Gold is $5,000, silver is $109, right? Charts aren't charts aren't just up, they're going crazy, right? Markets are no longer pricing in a recession, they're pricing in the total collapse in the trust of the US dollar. That's kind of what I think is happening right now, is that the trust in the US dollar is definitely having an effect on the markets, and more people are starting to buy into the ideas of precious metals, right? Silver is nearly up 7% in a single session, violently catching up to gold. Remember, silver has an actual place in the world. Why do I say that? Silver has a place in the world because it's actually used as an industrial tool, right? It is used to make things. Silver probably could be as high as gold or even higher than gold with the amount of use case that it actually has. Gold is just a store of value. It's kind of like Bitcoin in that sense. Yeah, you can't really do anything on the Bitcoin network, right? You can't really do anything with gold besides make jewelry with it or just keep it, right? But no one is accepting gold. They're not putting gold in most products that we buy. But silver, on the other hand, is a very malleable metal, right? It can be used for certain things. Remember, it was actually coins of our actual change in our pockets, right? Before people started to shave coins back in the day. So silver definitely has more use case. Long story short, ladies and gentlemen, this is another. This is really another. It's really another confirmation that silver and gold is starting to show its real value. And this isn't something that you should be fearful about, right? I think really this is about protections, right? It's protecting your wealth because if the dollar goes awry, right, meaning that the dollar, just is hyperinflation. If hyperinflation sets in, then what do you have to preserve your dollars? What other assets do you have, right? And even at $109, silver is relatively cheap. I just bought some more last week because it was time to, I saw a little bit of break in the market, but I always tend to try to like stay with the downturn, right? In terms of if the market's going to go up, I'll probably buy some tonight for the market open tomorrow. But I really want to stay on top of this because we probably will never see these prices again unless they decide to really manipulate silver all over again. Okay. So this doesn't mean the dollar is dead. It just means that there's trust is being tested, right? And we need to be kind of honest with that. Remember, silver is a global commodity. Everybody can use it, and in the rest of the world, if they're moving away from the dollar, they're going to be buying other assets to protect whatever wealth that they have. Well, with that being said, guys, please like and subscribe. This is Saving America's Money. Be strong, be safe, and continue to save America's money. Peace.